Hello, my name is Alan Bonville, and I have been asked over the years a couple of times to do some sort of video training series about civil disobedience and social movement. I do a lot of civil disobedience. I do a lot of social movement work. And so I figure now that I finally have the time as I'm walking across country pushing my rainbow cart here, that I would try to start doing some of these training videos. So I apologize for the shakiness, but I'm literally pushing, as you can see, down a country road here in Washington State. I'm actually between Lakewood and DuPont, Washington. So I'll talk loud because it's windy as well. But I'm going to do these as a series. So each video will be maybe like 10 minutes at the most, so that you can get little chunks of what civil disobedience is all about, social movement, and so forth. And what I'm doing is actually pulling this information from trainings that I've put together for this walk that I will do, I guess, with groups of people face to face. However, I think this information can definitely be useful virtually like this as well. All of this material you can find on the Into the Light Walk website, on the Get Involved, and I think it says workshops or lesson plans or something like that page. And it's all a Google Doc that you could use. This specific workshop, Civil Disobedience, was the source material primarily is from ACT UP, which was is the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. And on their website, they have a 53-page document. And a friend of mine, a fellow active freedom fighter, Brian Zabchik, took that 53-page document and whittled it down to basically a 3-page training guideline. And then what I've done is I've taken that and I've built other activities around that in the actual face-to-face setting. But here what we'll be doing is just going through the nuts and bolts from the actual 3-page guideline without all the fun interactive activities that I do in the face-to-face workshops. So we'll get right to it. And so if you want to follow along, you can download the training manual or just look at it online on the Into the Light Walk workshops. And we're starting with the Civil Disobedience workshop, which starts on page, what page is this? It's kind of hard to do this while I'm walking, so bear with me here. It's like the 4th or 5th page in. So basically what we're starting with is the section where it says Philosophy of Civil Disobedience. So I'm just going to read directly from here first for the first little couple sentences. It says CD, which is short for civil disobedience, is a form of political protest. What makes it different from other forms of protest is that it involves violating the law, which I should say, I'm not advocating anyone breaking the law by doing these trainings. These are informational only. What you choose to do with the information is up to you. Okay, so then protesters choose to engage in CD for a variety of reasons. But violating the law means that you will have to deal with the police and the courts. That's why a civil disobedience action requires special planning and special planning. Direct action is also more broadly defined as civil disobedience actually is part of direct action work. And that really refers to any action where the participant themselves is engaged, directly acting, so to speak, towards a specific goal. So you'll hear those terms a lot, direct action and civil disobedience, sometimes a little bit interchanged. But really civil disobedience is where there is actually an arrest risk scenario or where a law is being broken for a political point. So the spectrum of civil disobedience, and this again you can just follow right on in the written material. You know, CD is a form of free speech. It's just one form along the political spectrum. You know, you could think about things maybe you've done in the past. Maybe you've called your congressperson. Maybe you've written a letter, signed a petition, stood on a street corner with a sign. Those are all direct actions. Anything where you're, again, acting yourself is direct action. You're not waiting for somebody else to do the work for you to get your message out there and demand what is rightfully yours. So civil disobedience is just part of that spectrum. Upping the ante, so the question now is, why civil disobedience? Why don't we just continue doing petition drives? Why don't we just continue phone banking or, writing letters or whatever? Well, because those forms of protest, or even peaceful protests, along the street corner just holding signs, have been insufficient. And because civil disobedience gets attention. You can, get in the media a lot of times doing something where you're risking arrest, whereas if you're just standing on the street corner, you might not be, getting in the paper or what have you. There's no guarantee, of course, but it does tend to get you more attention for your cause. The moral necessity, the reason why people engage in civil disobedience is, it's to protest an injustice. It's morally necessary. All other means have failed. You must do this. And I should pause right now just to say what I'm referring to when I say civil disobedience is nonviolent. It does not involve property destruction. It does not involve hurting anyone, anything of that nature. So that doesn't mean that you couldn't get struck by somebody else, but it's taking a completely nonviolent stance, which allows you to have the moral high ground, and that's very important. When you're fighting for your cause, you don't want to get the message mixed with that you all were aggressive or something of that nature. You want to stick to the point of what it is you're fighting for. If others aggress against you, that's not something that you're part of. You're not acting aggressively. And we'll get into a lot of those details as the training continues to progress here. Nonviolence, I just covered that. Keeping civil disobedience action nonviolent reduces the risks and maintains that moral high ground. Noncooperation. CD is a way of gumming up the works. Some people choose to extend noncooperation past the arrest point and into the jail system, into the courts, but that's not usually something that typically you would do. And what that means, non-cooperation, basically means if you're blocking an intersection and the police tell you to move and you don't move and you lay down and, you say we cannot move until our demand is met, and you start chanting and what have you, as soon as the police officer is actually arresting you, they'll give you your warnings usually, sometimes they don't. They don't have to read your Miranda rights. By the way, that's not something, unless they have to question you or they choose to question you, they don't have to read you your rights, but they usually do read you. They're supposed to read you, warnings. If you do not stand up, you will, leave the intersection, you will be arrested. Da, 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 da. Well, sometimes, depending on the jurisdiction, you might go limp and stay laying there and have them drag you off. I say depending on the jurisdiction because you don't know. You have to look locally to see if that's considered risky, resisting arrest. And this is where it's very key that when you're engaging in civil disobedience, that everything you do, all your research per each action, you do it on the local level. You need to know how protesters are treated in your area, if there's a history of civil disobedience. If not, you've got to, continue to delve deeper, try to maybe figure out how might you be treated. Some of these questions you may not have solid answers to. What types of infractions would probably be what they try to, charge you with? What do they consider resisting arrest to be? Some places they don't consider dragging you off as resisting arrest. And we'll go into going limp and all of that too in a later part of this series. So wrapping things up here, we're kind of at 9.5 minutes. I said I want to keep these to like 10 minutes, although this first one has a little intro here, so I'll give myself a few extra seconds. Consequences and commitment. If you do a civil disobedience, you should be willing to accept the consequences, which means this requires commitment to the cause. And the consequences, usually are you go to jail. You might be in overnight. You might be in for a few nights. Legally, I think in most places they can only keep you up to 72 hours. I personally have never stayed in the system longer than, I don't know, 28 or 29 hours. But you need to arrange your life accordingly to know that there could be a few days where you're detained. When you get out of jail, you could be exhausted. So that's something to consider. You know, you might not sleep while you're in there. You might not want to eat the crappy food they give you, if they give you food. You know, there's preparatory things you'll want to do before you go in. We'll talk about medications and different things like that and health concerns later on. But so these are things that you just have to consider. You know, personal considerations are things like legal issues, immigration status, probation, outstanding warrants, jobs involving government, security, or childcare. Again, the time commitment issues, family or job obligations, animals, health concerns. You know, just things that you check off your list as you're getting ready to go into an arrest risk scenario, so that your life doesn't fall apart because you're fighting for your cause. That shouldn't happen. So that's basically all I have right now for the first section in this first video. I will try to post one of these per week, and if you have questions, feel free to post comments. I'll be putting these on the Into the Light Walk website, which is intothelightwalk.com. It'll also be on YouTube if you want to post questions there. And it's probably good I'm ending this video right now because the wind is starting to pick up. But I'll give you one more view too of what I'm seeing here. It's pretty gorgeous.